There's a substance so powerful, 80 pounds or 36 kilograms of it are used and recycled per day. It's necessary in all bodily functions and is the energy currency of power. There's an organelle dedicated solely to creating it, known as the mitochondria, or the powerhouse of the cell. What could anyone do with increased athletic capability or intelligence? What would anyone want to do? My name is Samuel Anderson, and I'm an athlete who desires more of this ATP for better athletic capability, but there's many good reasons to increase this. Humans should be given the ability to create more ATP because it will increase intelligence, it will increase athletic capability, and it will increase quality of life in general. So starting with how ATP functions in the brain, ATP allows neurons to fire over and over again, faster and faster and faster, the more of it there is, increasing thinking speed and memory building in general, or intelligence in general. So ATP restores electrolytes. So nerves operate in the body as separate entities, and when one nerve wants to communicate with another, one nerve will release electrolytes, sodium and potassium, into a synapse or gap between the nerves, and the other nerve will pick that up because they're only so long and carry on whatever signal the first nerve wanted. And so here's a diagram of one nerve, and here we have ATP being used to pump potassium and sodium in and out of the actual cell wall. So when sodium and potassium are left in the gap, this will allow it to get back into the nerve, and it's similar to how a bilge pump pumps water out of a boat. That's what's going on here. ATP actually powers the bilge pumps, which are different proteins, to get the electrolytes back in. And ATP being in the right spot at the right time is not determined by anything but just random positioning, which can be seen with a little bit of collision theory, whether that's through general chemistry or AP chemistry under College Board. They go into that in depth. But if there's more ATP, there's a greater chance that it will be in the right spot at the right time, and that will mean that nerves will actually be able to fire faster and faster because there's a higher likelihood ATP is in the right spot at the right time. So, moving on into athletic ability, increases in athletic ability by ATP. Increases in mitochondria and ATP production overall will result in greater aerobic and anaerobic performance through increases in VO2 max and muscular contraction speed. So VO2 max is very important, as seen in a normal person versus Eliud Kipchoge, as seen in the Runner's World magazine. So Eliud Kipchoge was the only person ever to run faster than a 2-hour marathon, or roughly 13 miles an hour for 2 hours straight. And he has a VO2 max of around 90, whereas the average person has a VO2 max of around 40 or 50 if they're pretty healthy. So, increases in mitochondria, which create ATP, will mean there's more ATP actually being created. And oxygen is usually a limiting factor in this, but if there's more ATP to actually absorb the oxygen through a certain system known as oxidative phosphorylation, which just assembles the ATP through a motor, it's very complicated. But more ATP will mean a higher VO2 max, and more mitochondria means more ATP. So that's definitely good for aerobic capacity, which will prevent someone getting winded as they're doing exercise, and it becomes more and more intense. And there's also muscular contraction speed, which ATP helps. So similar to the nerve synapses being cleared of sodium and potassium, the electrolytes are used to signal muscular contraction, and there are big bundles of calcium another electrolyte surrounding muscle fibers as they for contraction. So a nerve will actually signal this bundle called the sarcoplasmic reticulum, this big calcium store, and calcium will be dumped into the muscle. And here's actually a diagram of the inside of a muscle fiber. So this will actually be many rows of these two proteins. Actin, which is when the muscle is activated, and myosin. These will bind when there is calcium inside the muscle. They will bind like Velcro hooks and actually cause the muscle to contract. ATP is used to purge calcium from the muscle cell, similar to how the synapses are purged of electrolytes overall. And increased muscular contraction speed and VO2 max will mean seasoned athletes are able to perform new and better tricks in their field, whether that's acrobatics or that's long distance running or that's just walking to the refrigerator or walking a lap around the house every day. That'll get more people interested in doing physical activity because it's easier and it's more rewarding. So moving on to how ATP increases quality of life. ATP has been linked to vasodilation, suppression of pain, and other quality of life effects, including just better sleep. So ATP in the bloodstream breaks down to adenosine, and blood vessels will dilate if there's ATP within the bloodstream, and dilated blood vessels will improve blood pressure or lessen blood pressure in people who have an issue with that. And this will help prevent stroke, which will prevent deaths and other issues, and which could be gotten into, but ATP improves that. So ATP is also linked to pain suppression, interestingly, and if there's less pain being felt, then people who are beginning to get into exercise because they see everyone else doing more interesting stuff than they used to be, less people will quit the beginning painful stages of getting into exercise because there is less pain to be felt. So people can focus on the fun part. And ATP also improves sleep quality and quantity. So better quality sleep means you actually need less time to sleep, but also improves mood and actually thinking and athleticism in general. And ATP actually does not help with starvation. Remember that metabolism is increased and stuff is happening within the body faster. So more energy is actually going to be needed to sustain humans, and people with less food are more likely to starve. And this is a serious issue. So humans should probably not be subject to starvation or death so others can prosper and be healthier and happier. Even though it's nice for them, it's worse for certain people. And ATP should not be increased in all people until starvation is less of an issue. So in conclusion, ATP is a wonderful molecule that makes all cell processes happen, and mitochondria is the organelle behind its production. Both ATP and mitochondria should be increased in quantity so all people will benefit. In all people that will benefit. ATP and mitochondria improve human intelligence, human athletic ability, and also quality of life. And remember, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, so increase that power when it's reasonable and put that power to good use. There's a